A Union College student was forced off of campus for refusing to take a COVID-19 booster shot. White accountability groups are becoming a trend on college campuses. And Adelphi University won't discriminate on the basis of sex offender status. We have all of the details on those stories and more. I'm Abigail Streetman, and this is Campus Countdown. In our number 3 story of the week, college student forced off campus for refusing COVID-19 booster shot. A Union College student was removed from campus for refusing to take a COVID-19 booster shot due to health issues that arose from previous vaccinations. Ellie Puentes told Campus Reform that after she received her second dose of the Pfizer vaccine in September 2021, she experienced unexpected health issues. The severity forced Puentes into the emergency room, and she was diagnosed with gastritis. Puentes told Campus Reform that she is still experiencing these symptoms. Regardless, Puentes received an email from Union College in April 2022, reminding her to submit proof of the mandated booster shot. After receiving this email, Puentes sent an email to several Union College administrators and the health community members expressing her fear to receive the booster. Puentes was instructed to send medical documentation of her diagnosis to the college's wellness center. After receiving Puentes' documentation, the wellness center replied that the letter would not exempt her from receiving the booster. Puentes' primary care physician then wrote a letter to Union College recommending that Puentes be granted an exception from receiving the booster vaccine as she has had, quote, severe, prolonged symptoms since receiving her COVID vaccines. The school denied her exemption again. The Office of Community Standards then alerted Puentes that her classes will be dropped and thus she will not be allowed to live on campus any longer. In a separate email from the Office of Residential Life, Puentes was told that she had only 3 days to move out of her dorm. The left has shown that they care more about your compliance with their demands than they do about the well-being of citizens like Ellie. In our number 2 story of the week, new white student accountability group is part of a nationwide trend. Here with all of the details on that story is Campus Reform Correspondent and our new Campus Countdown host, Wyatt Eachels.
Thanks, Abby. There's a new trend going around woke universities these days. They usually are called something like white student accountability groups. The University of South Carolina College of Social Work just hosted the first meeting of one such group last month. The purpose? To encourage white students to recognize both their contribution to and responsibility to dismantle racism. Similar groups have been reported at the University of California, San Diego, and the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, as well as many others. Now, the Turning Point USA chapter at South Carolina criticized the group, calling it counterproductive and anti-American. In their statement, TPUSA said, notions such as white privilege and white guilt do not combat racism and division, they reinforce it. Just look to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville College of Social Work for another example. In their case, they hosted 2 groups, one for white accountability and one for Black, Indigenous, multiracial people of color. While preaching a mission to promote anti-racism, the school is actively segregating people on the basis of skin color instead. Now, they cover this with different kinds of jargon. At the University of California, San Diego, the description of their program used vague and nebulous terminology, claiming to holistically and comprehensively promote anti-racism by strengthening white ally engagement in efforts to mitigate bias and deepen white ally involvement in educating on anti-racism and driving racial equity at UC San Diego. These groups operate on the premise that unless you actively engage in affirmative efforts to be anti-racist, you implicitly advance anti-racism and white supremacy. Unless you participate in school-sponsored racial segregation, you're guilty of inequality. Thanks, Abby. Back to you.
In our number 1 story of the week, Adelphi University won't discriminate by sex offender status, according to Flyer. Campus Reform obtained a flyer at Adelphi University in New York that states that the school will not discriminate on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, and sexual offender status. By including sexual offender status, the university appears to contradict its own anti-discrimination, harassment, and retaliation policy, which reads, "This policy prohibits unlawful discrimination and harassment, including sexual misconduct, and retaliation, including derogatory or inappropriate remarks, slurs, or jokes related to any protected group." In the past year alone, however, Adelphi University has already had multiple reported instances of sexual assault and harassment. On December 11th, 2021, Newsday published an article about a male student who was arrested for allegedly recording a female in his dormitory bathroom. According to the article, the female had entered the bathroom and saw a man enter the same bathroom before he fled in an unknown direction. Newsday also reported on a second incident last month in which police are investigating a sexual assault at one of the campus dormitories, Earl Hall. While the event is still under investigation, an arrest was made on April 17th. You cannot punish sexual harassment and simultaneously protect the offenders. This will lead to incredibly dangerous situations for all of the students at that campus. What will stop offenders from offending if they know that they won't lose out on any of the opportunities that they already have? And now for everyone's favorite segment, the woke tweet of the week. Johns Hopkins University announced that it will welcome a professor who previously resigned from a teaching position after defending sexual attraction to children. We are excited to share that Alan Walker, PhD, will be joining the Moore Center as a postdoctoral fellow on May 25th. The Moore Center for Prevention of Child Sex Abuse tweeted last Thursday. Walker was formerly employed as an assistant professor by Old Dominion University and came under fire after publishing a book that defended pedophilia and attempted to destigmatize offenders by labeling them minor attracted people. Moore Center Communications and Marketing Manager Maria Blackburn told Campus Reform that Walker will support multiple large-scale ongoing research projects and help identify new projects. Blackburn also described Walker as a leader in the field of perpetration prevention research. Walker's book, A Long Dark Shadow, Minor Attracted People and Their Pursuit of Dignity, was published in June and argues that adults who are sexually attracted to children are not necessarily predators. According to Walker, there is no morality or immorality attached to attraction because attraction is beyond the offender's control. The majority of people know that this is not true. If it were, then we wouldn't have strict punishments for these disgusting behaviors. Johns Hopkins should be ashamed of themselves. That's all we have for you this week. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow along with all of the campus craziness on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Campus Reform. I'm Abigail Streetman. Thanks for watching the Campus Countdown.